Welcome to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
So the stage is set for tomorrow. It is going to be a big day in the Diddy trial because everybody is talking about racketeering now. That what kind of racketeering was Diddy allegedly up to? And Kid Cudi, I think if the prosecution can tie all of this together about his car blowing up and connecting it to Diddy, that's going to be, I think, maybe the most compelling argument so far.
He is expected on the stand tomorrow. And yes, everyone has this allegation came out in the indictment. So for months, we knew about this, the reference that the allegation that Diddy ordered someone, not that he did it himself, but that he ordered someone to blow up Kid Cudi's car.
Because he was jealous that Kid Cudi was dating Cassie,
right.
and he was pissed off about it.
Right, and we've already heard a reference to Cudi from Cassie's mom, who said that while she knew that Diddy was upset that Cassie was dating Kid Cudi, and that's when he made that $20,000 demand from her. But this blowing up the car thing is obviously would be critical to the racketeering charge.
I think so, because so much of what we've heard so far, as far as I'm concerned, and look,
by the way, we should make it clear, because I've heard a lot of people say this, that we hear this term racketeering, and I don't think the general public really knows what it means.
The concept of racketeering, not the Christy Nome definition, I'm sure, which is very different.
Wow, that was an unnecessary shot.
But I wanted to. But the typical racketeering, think of the mafia, where you have an organized crime group that goes out and has a drug element to it, a violence element to it.
The mafia is why the RICO charge was created by the government.
That it's usually an organization that engages in a variety of criminal conduct, and that is its purpose. This is a very different case, usually not used against an individual, but used here, saying
But the allegation is that Diddy was using his company and employees of his to carry out illegal activities.
And and we're hearing a lot about, he used somebody on his staff to book a hotel room for 3 ways. I got to say, that's not why the racketeering statute was passed. But look, I don't want to get into the debate on whether it should be racketeering or not, because there is a Homeland Security guy who testified, and he's trying to show elements of what a mobster would use in an organized crime activity.
He testified about what they found at Diddy's home in Miami during the raid, and all the photos were displayed in court. And look, whether or not it's racketeering, but these are weapons, automatic weapons, assault rifles that were found, handguns, lots of drugs.
I'm wondering if some of the disconnect is that, Bad Boy is also a legitimate enterprise. It published music, it had artists. A lot of Bad Boy records was legitimate, but it seems as though
the mafia had legitimate front people too. They had dry cleaners and things like that. I mean, that's really the way they operate.
Waste management.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the way they operate.
They're a big company, and a lot of it is perfectly legal, but it seems as though he had some employees, personal assistants and the like, that he would pressure or coerce into doing illegal acts, bringing guns to interact with Suge Knight at a Mel's Diner is not something you do at a normal record company.
It's like, show me. This is why Kid Cudi is so important. Yeah, he brought guns. And what the defense is going to say is he brought guns because he did want to confront Suge Knight, but at the same time, Suge Knight was a violent guy, and we wanted protection in case something happened. So they can explain that away. If they can connect the car bombing to
that's a car bombing out of jealousy.
Right.
I think you're explaining away a lot of what they're painting. They're painting a vast picture of a criminal enterprise, and yes, individual elements of this might be explained away, but the impression on the jury is going to be this guy had a cache of weapons, a cache of drugs.
Yeah, but hold on, the cache of drugs.
To do his bidding.
With the mafia, the cache of drugs is selling the drugs. With him, he's consuming the drugs. He's a consumer.
He's using the drugs, but he's also giving it to people who are involved in the freak-offs. And the allegation is that
he's not selling it to them.
The allegation is that they were forced into doing
what I'm saying to you is these freak-offs, to call it organized crime, is a real stretch.
Well,
a real stretch.
Organized you need it to be, Harvey. If you need filing cabinets with specific criminal plans,
no,
this is a pretty organized enterprise.
You need that they are physically threatening people, that they are blowing up cars, that, they
Now,
are extorting people.
About the blowing up the car, the alleged blowing up of the car. Well, we know the car definitely caught on fire. That part isn't in dispute. It's
But who did it?
Who did it? There could be a potential issue, and it came up this morning in court there could be an issue with Cudis' testimony. The defense is concerned about hearsay, that his testimony, I would imagine, I'm guessing that his testimony about the car blowing up and who did it is going to be hearsay because, he would have heard it from
somebody else.
From Cassie,
and that's
who heard it from someone else.
Which
this
is double
going to be
hearsay.
a big issue. He's going to say, Cassie told me that Diddy was threatening us, and if you're offering that to say it was truthful, that's hearsay. And it's classic hearsay. I'm not sure they'll be able to find an exception around that. If you're just looking to say, Sir Cudi, were you scared of Diddy? You can have that kind of testimony. People can be scared. That's not
right.
hearsay.
But the scared is a subjective thing internally. What they need to show is the objective fact that Diddy allegedly ordered the blowing up of Cudis' car. And you need what we call percipient witnesses, witnesses who actually see or hear something that they can testify about. If it's heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who...
All right, don't start singing. But so what he could testify to is, yes, after my car caught on fire, my insurance adjuster came and looked at it, and they found evidence of an explosion. He can testify about that stuff.
But they found evidence is hearsay. Even from
his insurance company?
Call the insurance adjuster to the stand. I mean, see, that's what hearsay is.
But even if they did that, that's still a step away from Diddy.
That's right.
Who's the one who's responsible for it. So we don't know if the judge has made a ruling yet on this.
And we don't know exactly what Cudi's going to say.
Right.
Hey, what's up? It's Brandon from Toronto. And in regards to Diddy's defense and Kid Cudi's testimony, I don't think it's hearsay because honestly, Kid Cudi has a very strong relationship with Diddy and Cassie. And if the reports are true that his car did get blown up over jealousy, then it links to the extortion, it links to the threats about Diddy, and it shows that Diddy has a power complex. It shows the fact that he is capable of doing all of these threats and running a whole enterprise and in charge with racketeering. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if they can connect all that.
Did you know that in law books they use ELO to explain hearsay? Did you know that? We're gonna move on.
That's not ELO. That's REO Speedwagon.
Oh, damn, you're right.
Wow.
You're right.
Got him. Yes. Let's move on to
I'm so mad at myself.
move on to what sounds like Bill Belichick's worst nightmare. His ex and his current girlfriend coming together at a holiday party and getting, and I'm not saying a holiday party because his ex, her last name is Holiday, Linda Holiday and Jordan Hudson coming face to face during a party in Nantucket. Now, we just, TMZ Sports got the the narrative on this. It was an actual document.
This is beauty queen on beauty queen smack.
Remember
it's just
that
the best.
Jordan Hudson is in the beauty pageant world. She was just in the Miss Maine competition. And Linda Holiday, Bill's ex, also knows people in the pageant world. And they ended up at the same party in Nantucket over the holidays. It's an annual thing they do called the Stroll. Well, Linda's daughters, twin daughters, were the DJs. And so she was there supporting her daughters, and she goes to this event every year. She used to go with Bill. Jordan went, I'm not sure exactly why, but she had to know that Linda Holiday was going to be there. And according to this document, Linda confronted not only Jordan, but Jordan's friend, who is Miss Massachusetts, and basically said, get out of here. You don't belong here. This is my turf.
Kind of a veiled threat, too, to one of her friends.
Yes, the Miss Massachusetts.
Melissa Sapini is Miss Massachusetts. She went to this party with Jordan. And as for why Jordan is there, Jordan just started dating Bill, or had recently begun dating Bill. So I assume it was her kind of trying to ingrain herself into Bill's life. Mm-hmm. Bill is very known around Nantucket. That's like one of his I guess, vacation spots. So that's probably why she was there. But regardless, Melissa Sapini, Miss Massachusetts, was there. And according to the incident report from the venue released kind of a report stating what they thought happened, or what they believe happened. Linda Holiday told Melissa that If you keep hanging out with Jordan, it might hurt your chances at keeping your pageant crown.
I mean, that is fantastic.
You want to talk about a mob boss move?
That is fantastic.
That is a mob boss move.
Oh my God.
Hi, this is Callie from New York, and never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would have NFL legendary coach in the same brain thought as Real Housewives of Nantucket. But to be fair, Jordan, bad form to show up. You knew better. It was worse form, though, Linda, to remove her. You're the older one. You should have just said, okay, stay away from me. But I definitely think we're going to see a lot more coming out of this because Jordan's set. She's going to make her place known, even though it's the old wives club. They're not going to let her in. Best of all, I love the fact that we have Bill Belichick, 74 years old. You know, he was sitting home in a ripped up hoodie, planning plays, and two very beautiful women fighting over him. So you go, Bill.
Well, and also you made a point. You sort of said something in passing about
I know
Linda.
you said
Linda,
older.
you're the older one.
Don't.
That may be the problem here. I mean,
Don't say that.
well, I'm okay. I won't say it.
You didn't say it,
but
you
I
said
believe it because I'm not justifying anything. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I think there's something there. We're taking a break.
When we come back, the guy who testified in the Diddy trial, the male exotic dancer, he is going to be here to talk about not only his testimony and how it will potentially affect the outcome of this trial, but also his life as an author and what's happening with his book sales after his testimony. By far the most colorful, for so many reasons, testimony that we have seen in the Diddy trial so far came from a male exotic dancer who his stage name is The Punisher, and we've talked about what he said on the stand about his encounters with Cassie and Diddy over, he says, nearly 3 years.
We're talking multiple freak-offs in New York.
Right. Well, his real name is Sheree Hayes. He is also, we discovered after his testimony yesterday, also an author. And his book, I would imagine, is getting a lot of fresh eyes on it today after his testimony. So he is joining us right now to talk about his place in this case and his book. Sheree, welcome to TMZ Live.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
We so appreciate it. I got to say, Sheree, when I read your testimony, you were so credible because you weren't taking sides. You told a story that, you know, this was your experience and it never felt shaded one way or the other. What I'm really interested in, I'm just going to be upfront about it. I listened to your testimony and I'm trying to figure out where is the crime that they're prosecuting Diddy for? And I'm wondering, when you had your discussions with prosecutors before they called you, did they explain where they were going? Because I was confused about that when you walked off the stand.
But honestly, that was my personal experience too, being confused. I remember when investigators first approached me in March of 2024. This was before any charges, allegations. I basically told them, "Hey guys, I have nothing for you. I didn't see any violence. I didn't get any cues to her being in distress, and any cues or anything that I mentioned, which I did say there was some wincing and some sighing and stuff. That was in hindsight. If there was never any allegations, I would have never even perceived it as being an issue to even point out. So I'm just as confused as you. I still, to this day, I'm like, I don't know why I testified. I always believed my testimony, if it was any benefit, might have benefited the defense.
When I read your testimony and you're talking about Cassie paying you and Cassie dressing up and kind of prompting you, I kind of had the same feeling you did, which was that's what the defense is arguing, that this was kind of a consensual sexual liaison.
And even if Diddy, and I know you did say at points that Diddy did make some payments, that she would make the initial, I guess, down payment and then he would pay more when the encounter was over. But you weren't, to be clear, you were never transported, as the indictment is, so you weren't transported across state lines.
This was all in New York, and you live in
City,
New York,
correct?
right?
Exactly. At the time, I lived in Harlem, and all of the encounters happened in New York hotel. So again, like when this stuff started, I was like, look, there's no way I can associate with trafficking. I'm all in the same state.
Right.
So I'm still confused myself, honestly.
It's so interesting because we wanted to have you on because I thought maybe prosecutors told you something beforehand because I was so confused when you got off the stand. I didn't realize you shared the confusion.
The only thing I can assume, and this is an assumption because we didn't have the conversation, was I think they wanted to make more significance with the wincing and the sighing and the frustration. But even if I'm being honest, if in the moment I did not associate that stuff with her being in distress to doing anything against her will. And even in hindsight, I understand the allegations, but I would be misrepresenting the situation if I said the situations I was in would translate it. Even in hindsight, I cannot say, oh, those sounds or those wincings or those sighs were her in distress because it just did not appear to be that.
Let's talk about the book.
Yeah, because this was a really interesting, I gotta say, we did not see this coming, but your book has gotten a lot of attention. I'm wondering if you've heard anything. The book is called In Search of Freezer Meat, and it's essentially based on you don't use real names in it, but you do what we now know to be the encounter with Cassie and Diddy is described in the book, but it's about your life as an exotic dancer and escort, but you're also dealing with ED. When did you get the idea to put this book together?
I went through like a really, really, really bad breakup. And it was a lot of betrayal and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, I was told that her acts of her seeking relationships outside of me was because of my sexual inability, which hit my ego tremendously. I was crushed. And I ended up going to the doctor, getting all these tests, getting all these things. And I was physically fine. There was absolutely nothing wrong with me physically, and it was all mental. And so when I started doing the research on ED, like 50% of cases of ED are mental. And men are running around trying to correct a mental problem with a physical fix. And I went so far with it being a mental problem, I ended up getting a penis implant unnecessarily. And I don't regret the penis implant, don't get me wrong. I think for guys who are really, really struggling with erections and stuff like that, it's something that should be considered, something that should be a possibility because it really corrects it 100%. Nobody talks about them. They're inconspicuous. You cannot see that you have it. And it removes all the anxiety, all the stress, all the fear that we build up for years as men dealing with this issue, thinking that there's no way to solve it or there's no cure that we can feel confident.
I gotta say that, to be honest with you, when I heard about the book, I thought this was just about the romp of an escort. But this book has a real purpose. Yeah. I'm wondering, have you gotten any traction from the testimony? Are people more interested in the book today than they were a week ago?
Sales going up?
Yeah.
I don't think there's no traction in that. I'm really pleased and appreciative that you guys see that it's in a different light and giving me the opportunity to explain what the real premise is about. Because, part of the reason I'm getting all this flack about me trying to chase clout and using this scenario to promote my book. And I can see where some people may believe it's in distaste, my book being mentioned in the trial and stuff like that. But, from a standpoint of this trial is so huge. And once I'm involved in it for the rest of my life, I'm Sheree Hayes, the male escort, which I was never a male escort. I'm a male dancer, right? So the fact that the book is associated with me is helpful because at least it can paint me in a different light to the few people who decide to look into it more so than what the bigger picture is, just me being involved in the Diddy Cassie trial. So,
and to the critics who say that you're capitalizing on this, as you've said, you didn't want to testify. In fact, you told the prosecutors you didn't have anything, but you were subpoenaed, you were called to testify, and you did. And they brought up the book during your testimony. So,
gotta say, this was so informative, and we rarely get a look from the witness's point of view during a trial. Yeah. This was really incredibly useful. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Sheree.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sheree. Okay, we are going to take a break.
All right, when we come back, the John Madden movie that is being shot right now with Nicolas Cage playing the legendary coach and announcer. Well, there's a big issue on the set between the director, David O. Russell, and one of his actors who claim that David used the N-word while discussing an ad lib, and now there are several actors really ticked off about the production of this film.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
Justin Timberlake made Portland kids' dream come true by joining a bike bus ride. And they always listen to Justin Timberlake.
Cry me a river when they fall.
It's TMZ.
We have three of the most acclaimed people in Hollywood working together on a huge movie. It's called Madden. It's about John Madden, the legendary NFL coach and announcer. And you have Nicolas Cage playing him. You have Christian Bale playing Al Davis, owner of the Raiders. And you have David O. Russell directing. Now, as much as they are acclaimed, those three people have also been known for crazy antics on set. There is an issue as they are shooting this movie right now. It doesn't have to do with
Nicolas. So if you had to guess, which one is the problem child?
Well, we will tell you, it has nothing to do with Nicolas Cage or Christian Bale.
Right.
Interestingly, but David O. Russell is in the middle of a controversy now because of an incident that happened with one of the other actors on this film, one of the supporting actors who, and it's not just the actor, we've spoken to several other people involved with this production who are on set and say that the issue comes down to two things. David O. Russell allegedly using the N-word while discussing a scene with a black actor.
Not calling somebody
Not calling him that, but saying...
suggesting use the N-word
But they were upset that he actually said the word.
Right.
And the other has to do with nudity, a full frontal nudity
Harvey,
scene.
Charles, it's really pretty crazy. Some very serious accusations are being leveled. We've talked to numerous cast and crew who have said that David did say the N-word, whether it was he was saying it because he was given direction or whether he was saying it for a different reason. We don't know, but we're told that it really upset the actor who he was speaking to and those around, and they walked off set. Apparently they broke for lunch that day, and they just wrapped because it was pretty sure that nobody was coming back. That same actor the day before, they said, hey, you gotta be fully naked in this locker room scene. He said, I don't wanna do that. And apparently that really pissed off David. The intimacy coordinator tried to smooth it over. Ultimately, he wasn't in the scene. That being said, our Amazon sources tell us facts are being twisted. David never said that word.
Right.
And that nudity, the actor knew that parts would be shown, so it wasn't a surprise.
So the studio standing behind the director, you'd expect that, but there's still this issue with the act. So the guy who was involved with this altercation, has he come back to the production yet, Ryan, or what's going on with that?
We haven't heard yet. Sources are telling me in the studio that the door is open if he wants to come back. It sounds like maybe there could be an amicable situation, but I think he wanted an apology from David, and from what I know about David, that ain't happening.
Yeah,
so
that ain't happening.
Good luck, kid.
Okay, this got so the scene, set the scene. So yesterday, it's like 5:30.
Late in the day,
I'm
he's
walking out the door, and my phone rings, and we get a tip that there's this big thing at the LA Zoo with these two elephants.
It has been a battle for weeks now. Billy and Tina are the Asian elephants.
For years, Charles.
Yeah,
Cher's
for
been
years.
working on this
Right.
for years.
But it really came to a head in the last couple of weeks because advocates for the elephants found out that the LA Zoo was planning to transfer them, Billy and Tina, to the Tulsa Zoo. And they were so against this. They sent a fiery letter to the mayor, Karen Bass. There was a lawsuit that was filed.
They wanted to put him in a sanctuary.
Right.
And to live out the rest of their days.
They tried to get a judge to block it, and the judge refused. So everyone was upset about what was going to happen to Billy and Tina.
So we get a tip that that the elephants were moved in the middle of the night yesterday at 1:30 in the morning, that they were put in a in some kind of a truck, in a semi-truck, in cages, and they were shipped off in the middle of the night. and nobody said anything, and they did it so nobody would know that they were doing it. And that's what we were told.
Yeah, because like you mentioned, there have been so many people upset with this decision, begging the LA Zoo to please send them to a sanctuary. These 2 elephants have been showing signs of zoochosis.
Right.
But like you mentioned, the LA Zoo, they're standing by this. They've released a statement saying that this is the best thing they've determined for the elephants.
I got to tell you the story because honestly, so we're working on this thing yesterday,
trying to get ready to publish it.
So he's writing this, and I call the zoo, and the person who answers the phone is like, oh, I don't think anybody's going to talk to you. And I said, well, look, find somebody because we're going to post a story. So she puts me on hold, never comes back on the phone. I wait for 15 minutes. I get the cell phone for the public information officer. That's the person who's supposed to talk to the media. Called how many times, maybe?
At least 20.
20 times.
Did a serious power dial. It just kept ringing,
Nothing.
Nothing.
And then I called the deputy mayor for Los Angeles, for Karen Bass, the mayor.
Who is actually in control, like oversees zoo operations.
Oversees zoo operations. And she says to me, I said, it's Harvey Levin from TMZ. It's all I said. She said, we have no comment, hangs up on me. It's like they're acting, I'm not saying they are, but they're acting like criminals. It's like we scurry the animals out at 1:30 in the morning, stonewalling, trying to call people just to get some response to this, and even to make sure we're accurate.
Right. It seemed clear to us that they were trying to avoid more controversy.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from Austin, Texas. Yeah, this is super sneaky on them, and I think they knew they would get bombarded by people, so they knew in the middle of the night no one would bombard them. And I think Billy and Tina have done their time, and they deserve to live in a sanctuary free and hopefully live out their peaceful days, the end of their days. So I think this is really sad for them, and I truly hope the Tulsa Zoo will take care of them.
Okay, we're taking a break.
All right, when we come back, President Trump says he's going after Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, Oprah, and now he's making jokes at Bruce Springsteen's expense. Is this lawfare, which he has been yelling about happening to him? Is he now doing it to celebs? We're going to be joined by Michael Knowles when we come back. Welcome back to TMZ Live. President Trump has said that he wants an investigation of Oprah, of Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen related to money that he seems to think they were paid to endorse Kamala Harris, and he thinks those are illegal payments if they happened. That is, if they happened. Oprah has already denied that.
Oprah said it's not true.
So the trolling goes beyond just calling for investigations. Today, President Trump took things a little bit further with a little produced video.
So the golf ball, he hits the golf ball, and then I'm sorry.
I mean, it's funny.
It's funny, but he's the president.
Yeah, I guess I'm not looking to the president for funny skits.
Oh my God.
And while he posted it as a joke, I mean, if he's really gonna have the DOJ go investigate these people over this, is this? I feel like this is him barking up the wrong tree, especially. Well, look, let's get into this. Joining us right now is our good friend Michael Knowles, who of course you know from the Daily Wire and his podcast, The Michael Knowles Show.
Michael is fantastic.
He's great.
He's a great voice.
But Michael, come on,
get out of here.
Come on. This is below him. Isn't this below The Office?
I want to be totally clear. I love the Bruce Springsteen video. You say you don't want this from the president. Mm-hmm. This is below the president. Well, then you shouldn't have elected Donald Trump. If you don't want these kind of funny skits and trollish videos, you should not have elected the greatest entertainer of our era. I love it. I think it's great politics.
Okay, look, Michael, let's get real for just a second. The thing that all three of them have in common is they were his political enemies, that they didn't want him elected. They all supported Kamala Harris. They all showed up for Kamala Harris. He hated Taylor Swift for that very reason, but he's using the Justice Department to investigate, not coincidentally, the people who were against him. And isn't that retribution?
Isn't that what he's been calling lawfare? This is lawfare.
Doesn't retribution belong outside of our justice system. And I'm really being serious here.
Well, the first purpose of the criminal justice system is retributive justice. Just off the bat, criminology 101. But even beyond that.
No, it's not
Barack
eye for an
Obama-
eye. It is not eye for an eye. It is not.
No,
That's
but you
not
only
the
punish
purpose of
people
it.
because they do something wrong. It's not primarily rehabilitative, though that's part of it. It's not primarily deterrent, though that's part of it. It's primarily because you do something wrong.
Right.
Otherwise, we could all be in jail because we all need a little rehabilitation.
Well, then it
I was
wasn't
a member of a
lawfare
group.
when he's been, the president and all of his supporters have been saying President Biden was committing lawfare and that he was running all these investigations into President Trump. And he said, President Trump, when he's elected, we're getting away from that. That is not what we want the DOJ to be about. So what's happening?
This kind of investigative work goes back a long way. Back during the Obama era, I was part of a group that was associated with the Tea Party. Barack Obama sicked his IRS under Lois Lerner to go heavy after all of the potential Tea Party groups.
And that's wrong. And that's
totally
wrong.
uncontroverted.
And that's wrong.
Sure. But, Joe Biden was investigating Catholic churches. That's another group that I'm a part of. And it was suing nuns and going after Catholics pretty hard. So in this case, you say, okay,
well,
was
he's
Trump
also
just
Catholic,
doing exactly...
so that doesn't... He's Catholic.
Yeah, he says he's Catholic. I don't know. He sure has a strange way of showing it.
Okay.
But so you could say, okay, is Trump just doing the same thing that his predecessors did? I don't think so. The lawfare that we saw under Joe Biden, where the former president, top political rival at the time, was prosecuted on 4 different fronts, had his house ransacked. That is a totally other level. Here, what Trump is suggesting is there might have been a campaign finance violation, which, by the way, Democrats and Republicans are investigated for all the time.
I mean, my God, Michael.
I don't know, guys. How much does it cost to do a podcast?
Michael, he is on the White House, in the White House driveway, selling Teslas to his biggest campaign donor.
He's buying Teslas. He was buying Teslas. So, look, there will be an investigation, and we'll see.
Michael, come on.
Does it cost hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to put on a podcast? I don't know. Maybe we're just more efficient than the Kamala Harris campaign was. They'll investigate it like they investigate every presidential campaign. On the broader point here of Trump in the White House going after pop culture figures, I think this is brilliant because you can have all sorts of wonkish policy debates, and those happen. But one of the big advantages for Democrats for my entire lifetime was Democrats owned the pop culture, they owned the media, and they would use it as a cudgel against Republicans. Then all of a sudden you get Donald Trump, top-rated network TV star, guy who's been in movies, just a huge pop culture figure. He is, weirdly enough, a bigger star than the people that he's going after. And I think for Republicans to have a little pop culture advantage and a little fun and a little entertainment,
but this
that lets us talk to
Michael,
a lot of
hold on. We're
voters.
not
I think
talking
it's
about
great.
fun. We're talking about
criminal
the Department of
investigation
Justice.
should not be fun.
That's not fun.
It should not be fun.
There's a lot of evidence. That's the point of the investigation.
No, there isn't. There isn't.
There is a lot of evidence that Oprah Winfrey's company took a lot more money than was necessary to put on that event, and maybe, especially at a time when you had the Biden administration going around the world shaking down foreign leaders to enrich the Biden family, maybe there was a little graft. Now, I'm not saying there certainly was graft, and I agree with you that investigations create a chilling effect, but we can't only have that chilling effect made on ordinary conservative Americans at the behest of Democrats. You've got to make sure that it's a fair playing field for everybody.
We got to wrap, but I thought it was interesting that you would bring up Biden shaking down foreign leaders on the very day when the Trump administration
gets the jet,
got the keys to the
for the
747
government.
from
That's
Qatar.
right.
For the government,
not for the government,
for the government,
not for the government.
You know it with him when he leaves office, and you know it.
That. Come on,
Michael. We will talk to you next week. Look at this. He's laughing. He's laughing because he
I'm laughing because of all the victories. I love it. It's great. It's total vindication.
Okay, Michael. We'll see you next week.
Good to see you guys.
Okay.
I got to ask him next week. Is there anything?
That's what I tried to do.
Anything
there's a line. Isn't there a line?
Maybe not.
We're taking a break.
All right. When we come back, the efforts to get Tory Lanez out of prison. There may be new evidence. Congresswoman Anna Luna is right behind this entire fight to get him free. She says there is new evidence about to come out. When we come back, she will join us, and hopefully we're going to find out what this evidence is. Is it enough to get Tory Lanez out of prison for shooting Megan Thee Stallion? Well, this is not going to make Megan Thee Stallion happy, but Tory Lanez is going full bore to get perhaps a pardon, maybe a new trial. There is new evidence that people who are fighting for his release say that there is new evidence that will completely change the outcome of this trial. You know, of course, he was convicted for shooting Megan Thee Stallion.
And sentenced to 10 years.
Right, and has been serving his time. He was, last week, was in a horrific incident in the prison, was stabbed 14 times. I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but just a couple of days after that incident, a group called Unite the People came forward and said that they intend to take this to the Court of Appeals and that there is new evidence. One of the people who has been fighting loudest for Tory Lanez is a member of Congress, Congresswoman Anna Luna, who is, interestingly, and we're going to get into this with her, she is a representative from Florida, not California, but she has taken a big interest in Tory's case, and she is joining us right now to talk about the new evidence and what they're going to do going forward. Congresswoman, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thanks for having me on.
So we're going to get into what you say is this new evidence. But first, I'm just curious about this. My understanding is you're around some kind of the Foreign Relations Committee, and you're from Florida. Why did you take such an interest in this case?
I actually am friends with Amber Rose, and she had flagged it for me. And when I actually spoke to the attorneys that are representing Mr. Lanez, they actually presented me with evidence. And what I would say is, I don't have any connection to Hollywood or the rap industry specifically, but the one thing that I am really big on, specifically because of my background and where I come from, is how people are treated specifically with injustices, and also too, as you know. As a Republican, I was very supportive of President Trump's prison reform. And so when I saw the evidence that was brought forward, we're talking about no forensics DNA on the magazine of the pistol, a 0.01 DNA match, which effectively means that he could not have been the shooter, to include there being ring footage that really refutes and dispels the testimony that, he had basically said dance and then fired the firearm. In addition to that, there also being missing ballistics fragments from the alleged, shot in the foot, as well as medical x-rays. All of this does indeed show and prove that Mr. Lanez, unfortunately, is being incarcerated and he's an innocent man.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You had mentioned a bunch of things that much of the evidence that you talked about, the issues that you have with the evidence as it was presented in court, those things came up in court and were addressed. The one thing that sounds new, and I don't know, what I want to ask you is this the new evidence that you had tweeted about, this ring video? You said there's a ring video that will refute.
Yeah, it was actually brought to my knowledge by the attorneys, and we actually had posted that on one of our X platforms, that there's allegedly ring video footage that refutes the statements and I would say, hearsay comments in court testimony. And then also
But is this ring video something new? Because that certainly, we covered the trial. That didn't come up during the trial. Is that something new? Have you seen it, and is it going to be released?
I have not looked at the footage yet, but we are pushing for them to release it publicly. And what I would also say is, specifically, I know that you guys have been covering it, but specifically to the DNA evidence, no fingerprints, no match. That means you guys have an innocent man incarcerated.
But take all that out of the way. If there's video that shows who fired the gun, then the DNA and all that doesn't matter. Like, it just seems like this video is everything.
I think that that's exactly why, though, there needs to be a review of the evidence, why we've called on Governor Newsom's office to review that immediately. And then, as you know, there's a very real aspect of someone just tried to kill him. I don't know any of these rappers, and this is not personal for me. I'm just simply looking at the evidence, and I'm telling you what the evidence shows, and the evidence is showing that he's an innocent man.
So they went through a lot of what you're talking about in the trial. There was, ample time to look at DNA. They got into, I know one of the things you're talking about is that Meg Thee Stallion talked about a glass in her foot at the emergency room as opposed to a shot. That came up as well. And, a lot of this came out, and the jury still unanimously found him guilty. So if I was the appellate lawyer or the lawyer trying to secure a pardon for him or a new trial, and I had a video showing somebody else shot him, I would shot her. I would send that out immediately to the media to create this kind of firestorm to
then
release
you would get the
it.
governor's attention.
Why wouldn't
wait.
they immediately release a video if it shows? Because that's the smoking gun, literally.
Right.
I don't know, again, as I stated, I haven't seen the footage yet, but what I will say is that all of the information that's been brought forward and flagged to us is also going to be presented if it hasn't already been sent to the governor's office. And I would also say that it's incredibly important for people to realize that the body cam footage, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, has also reported, and the initial medical responding doctor at the ER with Miss Stallion actually reported lacerations, and also too, the bullet fragments are missing, meaning that they don't have evidence. And so this is a very, very interesting case. I think it's really important for people to take a look at this and for there to be a serious reconsideration of this trial and for Gavin Newsom to do the right thing.
Congresswoman, we so appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Taking a break.
All right, when we come back, Violet Affleck revealing a big argument she got into with not just her mom, but her brother as well, all over the LA wildfires. Why she thinks her family and a lot of people are looking at that disaster the wrong way. Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner's daughter Violet is now published in a Yale journal. And the essay that she had published has revealed a fight that was going on, an argument, it seems like a month-long argument that she had with her mom during in the wake of the LA wildfires when they were displaced from their home, and she says they were living in a hotel and discussing the tragedy that had happened in Pacific Palisades and other parts of LA. And they did not see eye to eye on why this fire had happened. And what Violet describes in the essay is basically the argument came down to her mom was very upset about the tragedy and all the people who had lost so much. And Violet was pointing out to her, we should have seen this coming. I don't know why you're surprised.
And she said it's climate change.
It was all about climate change.
It's all about climate change. And the argument was that Jennifer Garner apparently felt that Violet should have more empathy for the people who lost their homes. And Violet saying, look, this was something we all knew was going to come.
Right.
And it's on all of us.
Yeah, she was looking at it more as like,
a policy.
This was not whether it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen.
Right.
She didn't hold back on not just using her mom and brother as an example, but also all the other people in the hotel she was staying at. She was saying that people were kind of just using this as a one-off, wow, this was so tragic. This kind of came out of nowhere, when she was basically saying, I mean, this is climate change, guys. Climate change was the reason that this happened.
And we've seen signs of this before. She went to a town hall meeting and had a very fiery speech there about COVID restrictions.
No, she's very, very smart. I will say, I personally happen to agree with her on climate change, but I remember when I was a local news reporter here in '96, covering Malibu getting burnt down and Laguna Beach getting burnt down. So we are subjected to this more than most places, irrespective of climate change.
Right.
Okay, we're taking a break.
All right, when we come back, Travis Kelce in a hairy situation. Some people think it may have foretell something that's going on between himself and Taylor when we come back. I wonder if Taylor Swift knew about Travis Kelce's nickname from college.
Which was what?
The Big Yeti. And now I think we understand why, because this is Travis after a workout with some teammates. He's rented a place down in Boca Raton, Florida. And yeah, that's not sand on his back.
Here's the thing we know, that it looks like Travis Kelce may get traded.
To?
The Bears.
Oh my gosh.
We'll see you tomorrow.